Welcome to Speak Forward English, where we help you master the language with confidence.
Hey there, welcome back to Daily English Listening. I'm Anna.
And I'm Jack. Thanks for joining us today, everyone.
So, Jack, before we dive in, if you're enjoying these conversations and want to improve your English listening skills, don't forget to subscribe for daily English listening practice.
Absolutely. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on our daily conversations. All right, Anna, so today we're talking about traveling abroad, right?
Yes, one of my favorite topics, honestly. I mean, who doesn't love talking about travel?
Right? So let's start with the basics. When you want to tell someone about a trip you're planning, what's the most common way to bring it up?
Well, you could simply say, I'm planning a trip to, and then mention the country. For example, I'm planning a trip to Italy next summer. Pretty straightforward.
Exactly. Or you could say, I'm thinking about going to Japan in the fall. The phrase thinking about shows it's not completely confirmed yet, you know?
That's a good point. And if you've already booked everything, you'd say, I'm going to Spain in March, or I'll be visiting France next month.
Right, right. Now, what if someone asks you, where are you headed? That's pretty common too.
Oh yeah, where are you headed is casual and friendly. You could answer, I'm headed to Thailand for 2 weeks, or we're headed to Greece for our honeymoon.
Nice example. So let's say you want to ask someone about their travel plans. What would you say?
Well, you could ask, do you have any trips coming up? Or are you going anywhere interesting soon?
Perfect. And if you want to be more specific, you might ask, have you ever been to Australia? Or have you traveled to South America before?
Exactly. And here's where it gets interesting, because people love sharing their experiences. So when someone says, have you been to Morocco? You might respond, yes, I went there 3 years ago. Or, no, but it's on my bucket list.
Bucket list. That's such a great phrase. It means a list of things you want to do before you die, essentially.
Yes, though that sounds a bit dramatic when you put it that way. But yeah, you could say, Iceland is definitely on my bucket list. Or, visiting the Northern Lights has been on my bucket list forever.
So, Anna, let's talk about describing why you want to visit a certain place. How would you explain that?
Good question. You could say, I've always wanted to see the Eiffel Tower. Or, I'm really interested in Japanese culture, so I'd love to visit Tokyo.
Or maybe I've heard amazing things about the food in Vietnam, so that's why I want to go.
Yes, food is such a common reason for travel. You could say, I'm a huge foodie, so I want to experience authentic Italian cuisine.
Foodie, someone who's really passionate about food and trying new dishes.
Exactly. Now, what about when you're actually at the airport or talking about your flight? What are some useful phrases?
Oh, good one. You might say, my flight leaves at 6 in the morning, or I have a layover in London.
Right, and layover means you have to stop in another city before reaching your final destination. For example, I have a 3-hour layover in Dubai.
And if someone asks about your flight, you could say, it's a direct flight, meaning no stops, or I have to make one connection.
Connection is similar to layover, but it emphasizes that you're switching planes. Like, I have to make a connection in Chicago.
Exactly. Now, let's say you're talking about accommodation. How do you discuss where you're staying?
Well, you could say, I'm staying at a hotel downtown, or we've booked an Airbnb near the beach.
Or we're staying with friends in Barcelona. That's always nice. Saves money, too.
Definitely. You could also say, I'm staying at a hostel to meet other travelers, or we've rented a villa in Tuscany.
Ooh, fancy. Speaking of which, how do you talk about your budget or how much you're spending?
That's kind of personal, but in casual conversation, you might say, I'm trying to travel on a budget, or we're doing this trip on the cheap.
On the cheap means spending as little money as possible, right?
Exactly. Or you could say, we're splurging on this vacation, which means you're spending more than usual because it's special.
Right, like we're splurging on a luxury resort for our anniversary.
Perfect example. Now, what about talking about activities or things you want to do while traveling?
Ah, yes. You could say, I'm planning to go hiking in the Swiss Alps, or we want to explore the local markets.
Or I'm hoping to take a cooking class in Thailand. That's a popular one.
Yeah. You might also say, I'd love to go sightseeing in Paris, or we're definitely going to check out the museums.
Check out is such a casual, common phrase. It just means to visit or look at something. Like, we're going to check out that famous restaurant everyone talks about.
Exactly. And if you're more adventurous, you might say, I'm going scuba diving in the Maldives, or we're planning to go bungee jumping in New Zealand.
Not for me, thanks. But speaking of activities, how do you ask for recommendations?
Oh, good question. You could say, do you have any recommendations for things to do in Rome? Or what would you suggest I see in London?
Right. Or more specifically, where's the best place to get authentic tacos in Mexico City? Or can you recommend a good beach in Bali?
Always important to find good food. Now, let's talk about describing your experience after you've traveled. How do you share your experience?
Well, you might start by saying, I just got back from Portugal and it was incredible. Or we had an amazing time in Costa Rica.
Or maybe the trip was absolutely breathtaking. That's a great word for when something is so beautiful it takes your breath away.
Yes. You could say the views were breathtaking or the whole experience was unforgettable.
And if things didn't go so well, you might say, the weather wasn't great, but we still had fun. Or it was a bit disappointing, to be honest.
Yeah, being honest is important. You could say, the hotel wasn't as nice as the pictures online, or the beaches were really crowded.
Right, but you'd probably balance it out, like the beaches were crowded, but the food more than made up for it.
Good point. Now, what about travel mishaps? Everyone has those stories, right?
Oh, definitely. You might say, we missed our connecting flight, or my luggage got lost.
Ugh, the worst. Or I got food poisoning on the second day. That happens more often than you'd think.
Yeah, or we got completely lost in the city, or I left my phone in the taxi.
Those make for good stories later, though. You could say, it was a disaster at the time, but now it's a funny memory.
Exactly. So let's talk about talking to locals. What are some phrases for that?
Well, if you don't speak the language, you might say, do you speak English? Or, I'm sorry, I don't speak Spanish very well.
Right, and it's polite to say, could you speak more slowly, please? Or could you repeat that?
Absolutely. And if you're trying to communicate, you might say, I'm looking for the train station, or how do I get to the museum?
Or the classic, where's the bathroom? Always important.
So true. You could also ask, is this the right way to the cathedral? Or how far is it to walk?
And when locals give you directions, you might hear, go straight for 2 blocks, or turn left at the traffic light.
Right. And if you're confused, don't hesitate to say, I'm sorry, I didn't understand. Could you show me on the map?
Good idea. Now, what about describing the culture or atmosphere of a place?
Oh, that's fun. You could say, the city has such a vibrant nightlife, or it's a really laid-back beach town.
Laid back means relaxed and easygoing, right?
Exactly. Or you might say, the people were so friendly and welcoming, or there's such a rich history everywhere you look.
Yeah, like you can really feel the history walking through the old town, or the architecture is stunning.
Perfect. And you could describe the pace of life, too. Everything moves so slowly there. It's refreshing. Or it's a bustling, fast-paced city.
Bustling means busy and full of activity, like the markets were bustling with vendors and tourists.
Great example. Now, let's talk about comparing places. How do you do that?
You could say, Paris is more romantic than London, in my opinion, or I prefer the beaches in Thailand to those in the Philippines.
Or New York is much more crowded than San Francisco. Or the food in Italy was better than I expected.
And you can be more nuanced, too, like, while Tokyo is more modern, Kyoto has more traditional charm.
Exactly. Or Portugal is just as beautiful as Spain, but less touristy.
Less touristy, meaning fewer tourists, which some people prefer.
Right. So what about talking about travel documents and preparations?
Oh, important stuff. You might say, I need to renew my passport before the trip, or do I need a visa for that country?
Yes, and you could say, I have to get some vaccinations before I go, or I need to exchange some currency.
Or I'm making a packing list so I don't forget anything. I always do that.
Smart. You could also say, I need to buy travel insurance, or I should download some offline maps.
Good thinking. And you might tell someone, make sure you bring an adapter for your electronics, or don't forget your sunscreen.
Yes, practical advice. Now, how do you talk about language barriers?
You could say, I'm trying to learn some basic phrases before I go, or I downloaded a translation app.
Right, or I took a crash course in Mandarin. A crash course is a short, intensive learning session.
Nice. You might also say, I can say hello and thank you, but that's about it. Very relatable.
Definitely. Or most people spoke English, so it wasn't too difficult. Or we managed with a lot of hand gestures.
Hand gestures are universal. So what about talking about transportation within a country?
Good topic. You could say, we're renting a car to drive along the coast, or we'll be taking trains between cities.
Or we're planning to use public transportation to save money, or we hired a driver for the day.
Yeah, and you might say, the metro system is really efficient there, or we took a lot of taxis because it was easier.
Or we rode bikes around the city. That's popular in places like Amsterdam.
Absolutely. You could also say, we took a ferry to the island, or we went on a boat tour.
Nice. So Anna, how do you express excitement about an upcoming trip?
Oh, there are so many ways. You could say, I can't wait to go, or I'm so excited I can barely sleep.
Or I'm counting down the days, or this is going to be the trip of a lifetime.
Trip of a lifetime. Such a great expression for something really special. You might also say, I've been dreaming about this for years.
Or I'm pumped, which is very casual American English for being excited.
Right. And if you want to be a bit more reserved, you could say, I'm really looking forward to it.
Perfect. Now, what about when people ask you what the highlight of your trip was?
You could say, the highlight was definitely seeing the Northern Lights, or the best part was trying all the local food.
Or meeting the locals was the most memorable experience. Or I'll never forget watching the sunset over Santorini.
Beautiful. You might also say, the highlight was hiking to Machu Picchu, or snorkeling in the Great Barrier Reef was incredible.
And if someone asks you if you'd go back, you could say, absolutely, I'd go back in a heartbeat, or I'd love to return someday.
Or once was enough for me if you didn't enjoy it that much.
Fair enough. So before we wrap up, let's mention a few travel idioms that are common.
Great idea. One is get the travel bug, which means you've developed a love for traveling. Like, after my first trip abroad, I got the travel bug.
Love that one. Another is off the beaten path, which means going somewhere that's not touristy or well-known.
Right, like we found this amazing restaurant off the beaten path.
And there's when in Rome, do as the Romans do, which means you should follow local customs.
Classic. And jet lag isn't really an idiom, but it's important. It's that tired feeling after flying across time zones.
Oh yeah, you might say, I'm still dealing with jet lag, or it took me 3 days to get over the jet lag.
So true. All right, I think we've covered a lot today.
We really have. Remember, everyone, if you want more conversations like this to improve your English listening, make sure to subscribe for daily English listening practice.
Yes, please do. It really helps us create more content for you. Thanks so much for listening, everyone.
Safe travels and happy learning.